Hello friends, it's Kirsten. I hope you're having a great week. I just want to say that it's been so fun to connect with you guys more regularly, not just on YouTube, but on Instagram. I've loved the feedback I've been getting on my Insta stories and questions I've been asking and posts I've been putting out there. So thank you for engaging with me. It's been so fun and I love to connect with you guys in a more personal way. So join me on Instagram or Facebook, or just make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and post comments. I love getting your messages, anything. I love interacting with you. And actually today's video topic came from a conversation I had with a lovely dancer named Angelina last week. Hi Angie, if you're watching. We were talking about how to decide between going the conservatory route or shooting for colleges. I know there are so many options out there for dancers these days, and especially as you near the end of high school, it can start to be a little bit confusing and stressful. Like all these questions spinning around in your head. How do I decide? What program do I pick? What's going to be best for me? And really, you won't totally know until you get there. But you can have more certainty by first just not being afraid to put yourself out there, and you can audition for all three. I want to say before I get started, that's fine. Let the feedback you get from your auditions also sway your decision. So there's that. But then also, I just wanted to go through kind of the pros and cons of conservatory programs, like doing that towards the end or at the end of high school, versus going into a company when you're young, versus shooting for college dance programs. As some of you start to make those decisions for yourselves and kind of lay out a future, I just wanted to come from my perspective, having been through all three, training at the Houston Ballet Academy, dancing for Oklahoma City Ballet, and also going to the University of Utah. I'm really glad I've had those experiences so I could kind of see how they're all very different and hopefully help you guys in your decision-making process. So the first option I'm going to talk about is conservatories, which of course is really, really good if you have not had serious pre-professional training throughout high school, as in you haven't been able to dance or train multiple hours a day with like-minded serious dancers or with teachers who are really pushing you. This is a really great place to strengthen your technique in a short amount of time. You're going to get a lot more personal attention, a lot more just practice, practice, practice. You'll be able to practice variations. It's just wonderful to gain experience and a lot of physical strength. Of course, if you are also, I guess, under the age of 16, 17, 18, this is still a really good option for you. I think a lot of dancers are just super attracted to getting into a company, you know, they get a traineeship or something like that. But honestly, going into a conservatory where you are going to dance a lot, you're going to get a lot of personal attention. It is a good option, even though sometimes it doesn't feed the ego as much as saying, I'm with the company. Honestly, depending on what company you go to and what position you get into, it's not always the best option. It sounds all nice, but some traineeships, you're standing around all day or kind of allowed to get kind of lazy. You're not really doing a lot, or you're kind of in this place in between where you're a trainee and you're supposed to be getting training, but you're also you're not getting a lot of training, but you're not performing a lot. So you're kind of neither here nor there. This definitely isn't the case for all trainee programs. Some are really intensive and wonderful and a good growing opportunity, just like some second company positions are. It really depends on the company you're going for, but I'd say, well, of course now I'm talking about companies, but since I'm on the topic, a red flag is if you go on a company's website and they have like 30 trainees or 20 something, or in the high teens, if they have a lot of trainees or a lot of second company members, and you could tell by looking at the dancers' bios, they've been there for a while, that means they're likely encouraging stagnation. They're not really pushing their dancers, or it's just not a really great environment to be in for a lot of reasons I don't have time to go into. But I would encourage you, if you haven't had pre-professional serious training before, to consider a conservatory option through the age of 19. I've even known dancers past 20 to go back to a conservatory while they're doing college classes because they're able to get that training they haven't had before. Also, a wonderful thing is that with great training programs, you're going to be probably getting a lot of guest teachers coming in. You're going to be exposed to new repertoire. You can even perform with the company your school's attached to. I would encourage you guys to, for the most part, look into schools that are attached to companies so you can also observe the company environments. You might be asked into company rehearsals without even being a part of the company. So it's a really, really good opportunity to just, first off, again, increase that physical strength, really improve a lot, focus on your technique. Even you can focus on your artistry too, but I will get into the downside there of the conservatories. But yeah, it's a really good place to get exposure and also to get a good name on your resume. Having a big school on your resume tends to add a good bit of credibility. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get you a job, but you know, networking is a thing in all fields, and it is important to kind of have some sort of credibility behind you. So if someone just looks at your resume, they know you've trained with an institution or a person who has a very high standard of technique and artistry and encourages that in their students. You're also going to get typically more challenging repertoire to perform. You might perform variations, solos, or at least small group dances that are more technically challenging than core work. You might get core work at a school, but chances are at a company, when you start, you're just going to be doing core work or understudying a lot. Also, I will say that I've noticed in dancers who go into companies around 17 or just at a young age relatively, there does tend to be a bit of a maturity gap. And so I would say if you were leaving home for the first time, I would really consider going to a conservatory or a college over just going straight into a company, because that sort of maturity that you get from just having that first year to no longer be a child at home and figure yourself out a little bit, it is really important to enter a company already having those struggles and that immaturity behind you. It is super important also because a thing with companies is that when you make a first impression, like with most places, it's really hard to change that over time. If you're seen as immature and you just don't know your way politically around the space, or you just don't know how things work or the right way to behave, if you make several missteps, it can be really hard to overcome that. So having a conservatory or college background before you get into a professional working environment can be very beneficial. So if you're at that stage, I would really highly consider looking into good conservatory programs. I will say the downside of conservatories are that since the training is so intense and you have a lot of accountability, the teachers are telling you to dance a certain way because they have a high level of authority in how you dance, it can kind of train your individuality out of you, which is something. It's good for a time, but you just have to be aware of that downside of the rough, kind of intense conservatory environment where you do have a high chance of turning into a ballet robot and relying on people telling you what to do to be motivated. That is so opposite from the company environment where you have to be an individual, you have to be artistic, you have to be motivated for yourself, because no one's going to be running after you every single day working with you on your technical stuff that needs to be changed. People are going to maybe give you one or two comments if you're lucky, and then if you don't fix it yourself and show initiative, then they'll be like, well, I guess she's just not the kind of, or he is not the kind of worker we want here. That's not good work ethic. So you have to be aware of that transition that has to take place if you go from a conservatory into a company. So now, speaking of companies, I think that you should consider going into a company if you are perhaps finished with high school and you want to dance, you really want to go into a company, you feel ready for that, you are ready to work on your artistry and the more intellectual side of dance where you're committed to understudying, learning roles, picking up things fast. You want to be in a room with dancers who are years ahead of you and have such artistic maturity. If you are ready for that environment, where you are really, really self-motivated, and you have to be because there's not a ton of accountability. It's kind of like if you mess up, it's on you. No one's going to keep yelling at you and helping you through it. Your success is on you, and fixing your mistakes, they're all on you. In a company, especially if you're starting out and you're at a low rank, the time is money, really. So you are expected to stay on top of yourself for your fitness, learning rep. There's very little patience for people who are not self-motivated and who won't take initiative to go over the choreography before rehearsal and to cross-train when you have a break. If you happen to have no rehearsals that day, you need to go in a studio by yourself and practice, or go to the gym or something like that. If you are ready to take that next step in your dancing and really claim it as your own, artistically and in your work ethic, then this is a really good environment for you. Also, if you feel confident in your technique and you've had a lot of training in your technique, then it might be time to consider a company. But just know that at a company, you have technique class in the morning and then rehearsals all day. And since you're at a low rank going into the company, you're probably not going to be dancing quite as much or have the opportunity to work on your technique so much, which is a downside if that's what you're looking for. So as I said, if you're looking for technical training, consider a conservatory or college, and I'll talk about that later. You also have to be ready to be kind of like that term, the dumbest person in the room. Not the dumbest, but you have to be ready and hungry to start out fresh and like at the bottom and to kind of have that clean slate experience. And you have to be humble and ready for that and ready to work and ready to show what you can do and just dance. You know, if you love rehearsing, that's your thing. Company life is for you, because that's what it is, really. Also, a big positive is that you don't have to pay to be there. You probably won't, I'll say, get paid your first year as a female in a company, or first 2 years or 3 years. The ballet world needs a lot of work, but the reality is you're probably going to be in an unpaid position, but at least you don't have to pay to dance somewhere like you would in a conservatory. You're not paying tuition. Though some trainee programs these days have started to do that, but second company apprentice, you don't have to. And you might even get your point shoe costs covered, so that's nice. You also have an opportunity to work. For most company schedules, especially at smaller companies, if you're not being paid or not being paid very much, the schedules are sorted out in a way where you can work or do school and still like sleep and have a decent quality of life. Now, it's hard. It's hard, especially if you're financially independent. It's really hard. But it can be possible, depending on how hardworking and scrappy you want to be. So if you want to maybe, pick up another job or do online classes, get your college classes started, but you're not ready to go all in for the college experience, this is a good option for you. I will also add, if you feel really secure in your relationship with dance and your motivation for being there, if you know in your heart that you love this and you would endure most anything to dance, this is for you. Like I said, it connects with the having to be self-motivated piece. You have to have a pure motivation for being there and really know that you love it. I will say the downside is that if you are in a company where you're not the favorite and you're at a low rank, in a lot of companies, there's a good chance that you won't be dancing very much your first year. You will really have to work to prove yourself. And that's just a reality. For some, it's exciting. A lot of times it's really hard, but if you're ready to work and be humble and just accept any opportunity and you're excited by that and you're excited to be kind of mentored by other artists and watch them and get inspired, then it's a good option. Now I'll talk about college. So I would say college is a wonderful place to explore and to get the experience of performing a lot, creating if you are into choreography, learning more about your art, really diving into the creative individual side of dance and just falling in love with the art of it. This is a great place for that. Also, it is a good place to explore not just your relationship with dance, but your relationship with yourself as a person. It's such a good place to discover another side of yourself, study another subject, meet all sorts of new people. And if you're just ready to hit that refresh button and maybe you're not sure what you want to do with dance in the future, you know you like it, you don't know if you want to do it professionally or if you want to do it all day at a conservatory, but you're just ready to kind of figure things out and just dance and see what you want to do with it. After a couple years, you should be ready to decide that. I would say if you're being really exploratory about college, do study something else. Do be intent on doing well with your grades. Be an involved student. This is also a really good place to get some more technical training and performance opportunities if you feel like you're not getting any contracts from companies or you're not ready to go audition for companies. This is you have a couple years to get better, which is great. You do have to be really motivated. It is easy to get out of shape. We know, I've talked about my experience with that. But if you feel like you just need more time to train and get better before you go to companies, but you don't just want to spend your years after high school with all your eggs in one basket, just training to see if you could be a professional dancer, you want a backup plan. You want to make sure you're also moving forward in other areas of life. This is a really good option because, of course, you can get a degree, which is valuable. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on college and how it also might be a little scammy in some ways, okay? It's not like your one golden ticket to success where all of a sudden you have a degree so you could get a good job in whatever field. No, it's also about the experiences you have in college, your demonstration of leadership abilities, your involvement with other organizations. You have to prove your initiative and your interpersonal skills and all these things, not just in your grades, but in your overall involvement. But I will say, having a degree right now in our society, we know it is valuable. It's worth something. So if you do want that backup plan, that self-discovery, that feeling of progress as a person, not just as a dancer, this is great. It's a really, really good option. So I would say that the positive, just speaking about the dance aspect of college, is that you're going to get to engage in a more mature and intellectual way with your art. You are going to be encouraged to use your voice, to speak and to think and to really become an artist. That's a really beautiful thing, while also working on your technique. It's also really great if you want to teach ballet. It helps to have a BFA. But for the negatives, in terms of ballet, it's really, really easy to get distracted. I've done that. I've been through that. I've seen so many dancers get burnt out just because they've got so many different things going on and their commitment to ballet has slowly faded so much over time that they're like, I'm not where I want to be anymore. I'm not going to get into a company. I'm done with this. It's also really easy to lose touch with the dance world. You have to stay up on current events. It's valuable to still be going to summer intensives in the summer. You have to try to stay in touch with the dance world and what's going on and get yourself into master classes or situations where you are encountering dancers from pre-professional environments, because it can be jolting for college dancers who are in this somewhat chill kind of family environment for all those years. All of a sudden go out into company auditions when they're 22, 21, whatever, 23 at the end of college. And they're with these 18-year-olds who have been dancing 6 days a week for hours a day, and they haven't been. They've kind of chilled out a bit. That can be really hard to see. So you have to stay in touch. Know what your competition is like out there. And you have to try to do that because college environments can be very isolated from, the rest of the professional world. The other hard reality is that even though you'll go through all this personal development and have a degree and all this cool stuff and wonderful life experiences, there's a good chance that before college, you would have gotten a traineeship at a company. And then after college, you might still be offered the same traineeship, even though you're technically better and you're mature. But that's a reality. Now, is there a good chance that after that year as a trainee, you would get considered for the next level, second company, apprentice, whatever? because your maturity has shined through, sure, maybe there's a better chance there. It's not like your college experience is all for naught, but that is the reality, that you're not going to automatically be seen as like, oh, this mature college dancer and get a core contract. So the reality is that the experience is what you make it. You have to stay committed in college, that's for sure. You have to stay in touch and find what you want to do with dance and be convicted about it. And yeah, well, that's really the case for all three of these. But anyway, I've talked a lot about these three options. I hope you have a pretty clear idea of what each can do for you, and hopefully, yeah, just keep this video in mind and this information as you just make more decisions and consider your path ahead. I really hope it was helpful. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!